everybody. Welcome to this month's episode of Talking Disney. We're talking about the 39th animated film from Walt Disney Animated Classics. We're talking about Dinosaur. It's going to be so much fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
And we have a very special guest today.
Yes.
We have the king of dinosaur fans. So exciting. We have Jonathan North here with us.
Yay.
Jonathan,
Hello.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
That's the most interesting way I've ever been introduced, I think.
If people don't know, Jonathan does the Doctor Who recaps with me. And we have a ton of fun talking about that. There's even an episode of Doctor Who with dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised it wasn't your favorite. But when we got the random number generator gave us Dinosaur, I just knew we had to have Jonathan on the podcast. So it's going to be really fun. I'm excited to talk about this film. But before we dive in, I just wanted to make note of the fact that this is our 50th episode of Talking Disney.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah. Can you believe it, Stanford?
I can't believe it. Well,
unbelievable.
Yay, hooray. How fun. And that Jonathan gets to join in on the party too.
Yeah.
Is extra cool. Well, Rachel, it's been a pleasure. It's been so much fun. Thank you for including me on this. This is really
I agree. I have had so much fun. And even the not so great movies are made fun because we get to talk about them together.
Absolutely.
That always helps me when I'm talking about a bad movie. It's more fun to talk about it than to watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't agree that this is a bad movie, so.
The gloves are out already. It's very good. So, Dinosaur, this was released in 2000, and it's considered a live-action, computer-animated hybrid film. And we'll talk more about that. And do you remember, Stanford, if you saw it in the theaters when it was coming out?
Oh, yeah. I for sure saw it in the theater in 2000. And I remember initially really being intrigued by the project. I loved the poster. I thought the poster itself was really beautiful. And then like, oh, wow, maybe this is going to be something really cool. And then just reading and, hearing about the different technologies, I should say, that were used in the creation of it, I thought was cool. And then I saw it, and then, all the good feelings left. Sorry, Jonathan.
What about you, Jonathan? Did you see it when it was released?
No, I don't remember when I saw it. I was probably maybe the next year, because at that point, I don't think my family even went to theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I probably waited until the library got it, and then I borrowed it on VHS to watch.
Yeah, 2000 for me was when I was in college. That was like prime living in the dorms kind of year. And I didn't see it. I don't even remember it that much. I vaguely remember it being like a big thing in the Happy Meals. Because I had younger siblings.
Yeah. Oh, those puppet things.
Yeah. And then that was exciting. But I didn't actually, at least to my memory, I didn't see it until I reviewed the canon for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And I had the same reaction as you, Stanford. I was like, oh my gosh. It was actually my least favorite in my first canon ranking that I did of the whole canon. It was at the time that was 54. It was my 54th. And in the second canon ranking that I did, it was, I think, 54. So it was still 54, but there were three more movies.
Okay, there were some that were.
So yeah.
Are we talking rankings? Do you want me to tell you mine, or
we're doing
it
a little early this time, I guess.
Okay. Well, and again, John, this is no offense to you. I'm very, nothing but respect. But so thanks for putting up with this. I have it at 58, at 59.
Yeah, the bottom, huh?
Yeah,
what's 59?
The Black Cauldron.
Oh, it's 59. Yeah,
Yeah.
50. I have at 54. I have Chicken Little at 55, and I have Brother Bear at 53.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
just pulling up my list here. I at 50 at 57 I have Home on the Range.
yeah,
And 56 I have Chicken Little. And then my bottom 5 is then it's Brother Bear at 55.
yeah.
Those are I think are
Home on the
my
Range was my bottom in my second ranking.
okay.
So
Yeah.
we all have about the same fishes swimming in the same pool
Yeah,
there,
it's kind of
pretty much.
general direction, just with a few specific stuff, which is kind of typically how it goes with us, isn't it, Rach, on these?
That's right.
Yeah, these rankings.
So
I don't
yeah.
know where this would rank for me because I've never done a ranking. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm slowly building one because I'm going through the Disney canon very slowly on my
Mhm.
podcast. I'm not like it's not like a huge focus at the moment. So
Uh-huh.
I'm like slowly building it, and of course I haven't gotten to Dinosaur, and I probably won't for at the rate I'm going several years.
Are you going in
But
chronological order too,
yes,
Jonathan? Okay, cool.
yes,
Yeah. Do you
and
have a least favorite kind of current one that you just didn't get into?
um, I would have to stop and think, but
Yeah.
probably one of the package films
Mhm.
because they're
Mm-hmm.
not my favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
they have good and bad things about them. I don't hate them. I don't think I hate any Disney movie. I even have things I like about Chicken Little. So,
Mhm.
and I used to really like Chicken Little. I've now grown to see why other people hate it, but I still have a tiny bit of nostalgia for it,
Uh-huh.
and I do like certain aspects of it. I just wish it had been executed better. But
So
talking about Dinosaur, I think Dinosaur would probably be middle of the road for me.
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
for sure yet.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, why do you think growing up that you loved dinosaurs so much? What is it about dinosaurs that were so exciting for you?
I don't know. Probably the fact that they're sort of like dragons, except they actually existed.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. There's just something about them. They look so cool. They're giant creatures that we'll never truly know what they were like because
Mhm.
we can't observe them. We just have their skeletons. I don't know. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
mystery, the sort of fantasy to them because like as much as we can know, we'll never fully know them. So it's just they're just intriguing all around, and I really like thinking about them and what they might have been like, and learning about what they do know about them, and seeing different people's interpretations of them.
Because I loved the first Jurassic Park. It's still one of my favorite movies in my top
Mhm.
5 of all time. And the seeing the dinosaurs, that awe and spectacle was
Mhm.
still one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in a movie. I absolutely love it. I was so disappointed in the sequel. I did not like it at all.
Lost
And
World.
Oh, the Lost
yeah,
World.
I was that was one of the most disappointing experiences of my
Yeah,
young
that's
movie
such a
going life.
bummer. It's not.
I
Yeah,
did not care for it.
I
I
don't care
see
for
it.
that film either.
Yeah, I see some of its strengths now that I didn't then, but because I was pretty hyped up, but I still don't really love it. And just this to me, the sequels have been very disappointing of the Jurassic. And every time one comes out, I'm always like, oh, that wasn't very good. And Jonathan's like, it was so cool.
It's one of those things where I have like when I go in, I'm like super hyped. I think it's the best movie ever, and then as I gradually move away from it, I can see more and more of the flaws. Although I will say, with the most recent one, I could see the flaws while I was
Yeah.
watching it. there, there were so many things that I wish they would have done different with the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm, it's to the point where I'm like, I'm not even super excited about the third Jurassic World movie, even though I'll
Yeah.
definitely see it. I mean,
Yeah.
dinosaurs in a movie, I've got to see it. But I'm not like super hyped for it. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, that's coming. I'll watch it. Whatever.
I
Hoping it's better than the latest.
Yeah, oh, yeah, same here. I'm with you, Rachel. The original Jurassic Park from 1993 is one of my favorites too. I love that movie so much, and it's been a bummer that they haven't been as good, but still, uh, the spectacle of it is still kind of fun. I mean, even though the movies maybe not be as good, the sequels, right?
Yeah. I mean, and then we also have, of course, we have the Land Before Time, which is the sort of the other, I feel like, iconic dinosaur movie. And I think a lot of people have a bit rose-colored glasses on the movie. I like it, don't get me wrong. But when I rewatched it for family movie night, this was a couple of years ago, I that movie lays on the sentimentality really thick. I mean, the narrator telling you that all about, I forget the dinosaur's name, but all about it and his grief, and I mean the way that it's, I don't think it's as good as people might remember it, and that might be blaspheme to say. But people, whenever you have anything that's even slightly sentimental of a dinosaur, they're like, "Oh, you're just remaking Land Before Time," and I'm like,
No.
"Well, I mean, that movie was in like 1988. Can't we have? Are we not allowed to ever have another dinosaur movie ever again? Like, if people didn't like The Good Dinosaur, that's fine. But when people were like, "Well, we already have Land Before Time," I'm like, "That was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Can't we have one more?"
Well, and and the Land Before Time too. Again, I don't know the numbers, but I mean, I saw the original. I think
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. And then it was like the direct to video king.
Oh yeah,
How many
14, I think.
sequels? Yeah. Which I haven't, I don't think I've seen one of them. But anyway,
Yeah,
We
that always
watched a few
amazed
of
me
those
is
as
like,
kids. They're
did
they're
you
they're they got increasingly worse.
have you've seen some of those sequels?
Yeah, I think we stopped at like 5 or 6, like because they were
oh,
on
okay.
TV and we taped them. So we had like taped off the TV versions
Oh,
of the
nice.
first
Okay.
several, and we watched those a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever watched. Maybe we borrowed one or two of the later ones from the library, and they weren't that great. They were very forgettable.
Well, YouTuber Jenny Nicholson,
I
she
love that video.
right like a month into the pandemic, 2 months maybe, she did a whole video
Uh huh.
ranking all
Oh
14.
my goodness, she watched them all.
Yeah, she watched them all. She's
Oh.
like, I'm on lockdown. What else do I got to do?"
I've watched her video more than I've watched the Land Before
Me
Time
The
film.
too.
Land Before
I've watched
Time.
it multiple times myself. I've got other people to watch it, and it's so entertaining.
Yeah, she is a master at I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of craft that goes into it, but just sort of talking and giving her kind of dry
Uh huh.
criticism. She's really good at what she
Yes.
does. But yeah, that's a really funny video. People should check that one out. Uh, but anyway, so those are kind of the landmarks for dinosaur movies. I mean, I guess you have things like King Kong and Godzilla and some other things like that. But
Well, and I think that how dinosaurs are represented in Fantasia is
oh,
is
true.
is
That's a
Yes.
good point.
is pretty cool. That Rite of Spring sequence I think
Mhm.
is pretty stunning.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that Fantasia is one of my favorite films because I watched that as a kid, and it was
Yeah,
one of the only places that I could ever see dinosaurs. Like, I don't
dinosaurs.
think I even knew about Land Before Time when I was really little. So
Yeah.
Fantasia was like the place to watch dinosaurs, and I did not care about sitting through all the other stuff that people thought was boring. I was like,
Yeah.
dinosaurs are coming! I'm so excited.
And it's
It
a
wa
long sequence too,
Yeah,
right?
it
Uh
So I
huh.
is.
mean,
It's true.
yeah.
So, Stanford, what about you? Did you grow up loving dinosaurs? Is that a thing for
Not
you?
really,
Yeah.
I didn't, I mean, I didn't hate him. I was fascinated on a kind of like a family field trip day. We drove out to Vernal and
Mhm.
went to I believe it's Dinosaur National Park is the one they
Yeah.
call it, or is Dinosaur National Monument. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
not if I'm using the wrong name, but just to see the dig, and I was just absolutely fascinated by that, to see that in person. And then, of course, everything always revolves around Disneyland. You know me, Rachel, right? And I love how in the Big Thunder Mountain ride, how they've got like the dinosaur skeleton
Mhm.
there. So I mean, stuff like that, I think is cool. That's probably was more with my growing up, though. I really wasn't that. I just didn't pay that close attention to dinosaurs. I've got
Mhm.
friends with, I don't have any kids, but I have friends with kids that I mean, they know every dinosaur
Oh yeah.
that's like ever been identified,
Yeah.
and that's fun. And they love the, they just love it all. And I'm really impressed with it. But
Yeah. And
it's not me.
I have like no idea the names. I'm like Crana Tokyo, blah blah
Oh
blah
yeah,
blah blah. Blah. I don't know.
seriously,
I have no idea.
yeah.
But, uh, but yeah. If you ever come out to visit, Jonathan, we can take you to Dinosaur National
Oh,
Park.
Jonathan, it's
I
so
need to
cool.
I need to go there. I've
Yeah,
always
it would
heard
Yeah,
about
be
that place. I've never been there. I would
it's
love to.
amazing. I think you'd love it.
it would be really. I actually have never been,
Oh,
at least to my memory. I've never
it's
been.
it's so cool. I went again as an adult, maybe 5 years ago or something, and it's
Hmm.
and same thing. It's just like, wow, this is so amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Hmm. Yeah, and speaking of the parks, there's actually a pretty big stamp from Dinosaur on the parks, particularly Disney World.
Yeah, the Disney World. Well, that's right.
Yeah, because there's the whole Dino
That
Land.
Dino Land, and then that dinosaur ride
Mhm.
that's themed around Aladar. There's like an Aladar statue, the
Mhm.
main character in Dinosaur.
Really?
Oh yeah,
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 and
yeah.
I
actually,
mean,
the
I knew
one
there were
thing,
dinosaurs there, but I didn't realize it was this movie.
yeah,
Mhm.
I've never been there.
they had
So
made the ride was initially named Countdown to Extinction, and it was just kind of more dinosaur themed generally, and then the dinosaur movie came out like a couple years after uh, the Animal Kingdom park opened there at Walt Disney World, and they rethemed it to
hmm.
the movie. Well, then I also forgot too one other Disneyland thing in when you ride the train around the park, there's that incredible dinosaur, that Primeval World exhibit in the from the train that I just absolutely love that too. Those they brought in these
Mhm.
full they were part of the Ford exhibit at the 1964 New York World's Fair, and they moved them back to California after the fair was over and put them as part of the display. So the first half of it, you go through that Grand Canyon diorama, and then you
Oh
go
yeah,
and then you see the dinosaurs, and it's I absolutely love that. I mean,
yeah, I
that's
do
what
too.
one of my Disneyland favorites.
I always, if I'm leaving, my last thing that I always do at Disneyland is always take the train.
Take the train,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the best. So now that we've talked about everything other than the movie for as long as possible, now let's talk about the movie. So if I'm not mistaken, the first like section of this movie was basically the trailer. Is that right?
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
with the egg and the pterodactyl. Is that right?
yeah. Well, there's yeah, I think there's a pterodactyl
Flying.
among all the other things that goes on with that egg.
Yeah. And that's the best part of the movie. Like no question, at least in my opinion. Like that
I'm not a
opening 30
hater, but I
seconds.
agree. I love the opening so much.
Yeah, the opening is the best part. And so I understand why they use that for the
Yeah,
trailer. It's kind of
the
similar
opening is
to
amazing.
with the Lion King, how they used the first part as the
Mm,
trailer.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm. So
and um, Pocahontas, if I'm not mistaken, used uh the Colors of
oh
the Wind
yeah.
sequence, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
as its trailer. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and they were working heavily with McDonald's with this movie. As I recall, not only the Happy Meal toys, but even within the park, within other things that was a big combined promotion. Because I think right around this time is when I think it was like '98 that Disney signed their deal with
yeah, they had that
McDonald's
long-term contract with
for like
McDonald's.
10 years.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to get French fries in Disneyland,
Yes, that's right.
but
Yeah.
alas, no more.
No more. What a bummer.
But it is a very good start to the movie with the pterodactyl flying the egg over to the other part of the land. And this movie was made with 300 computer processors in order to animate, and then they took the animation and they put it in front of real live action backgrounds. So that's why it's called a computer generated live action hybrid. And Jonathan, what do you think about that as far as the look of the animation on top of the live backgrounds?
I think it looks great. I think that it holds up a lot better than some other CGI stuff, partly because of the fact that they used live action backgrounds. I remember when that was coming out and I watched like some behind the scenes stuff because I would watch anything that I could about movies that I was interested in until the library got them because we didn't go to the theater back then. So I was really interested in like the making of this movie because I love dinosaurs. And I remember watching, I'm not sure how I watched it, but I remember watching the behind the scenes talking about going to the live action parts and then doing the CGI to integrate the two. And yeah, you can tell now looking back the it's not perfect, but I think it has aged a lot better than some other CGI. And a lot of the characters look a little bit cartoony, not like super realistic, but I think that's fine. I don't mind that. It's it's a product of its time that I think, to me at least, has held up better than
Mm-hmm.
some other things.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that sort of plasticky look that CGI had in the late 90s that I don't know, just kind of looked kind of rubbery.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
But
and there are
I think they put enough texture in it that it sort of disguised that enough.
mm-hmm.
The dinosaur
Yeah.
skin, the fur is the main thing. The fur on the lemurs, that's the main thing that I could tell was not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think they were able to hide the plastic look better than other
Yeah.
things did because of the textures.
Yeah. What do you think, Stanford, about the look?
I remember being quite impressed with it initially. Back in 2000, I thought a lot of it looked really good. But I'm with you. The skin texture of the dinosaurs. I mean, it looks like Rex from Toy Story, just with maybe some different colors. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely and it's amazing to see like how far they've developed with like the animal fur and just the hair in general and things how
Yeah.
things should look better now than they did, but it's definitely a product of its time for sure.
I mean, I think it's kind of hard because Jurassic Park was way before it was the 93. And
93,
obviously, it's a
yeah.
different technology, but the dinosaurs look so much better
It
in
looks
that
so much better in Jurassic Park. I mean,
in
just
here.
generally, right? Yeah, every one
Yeah.
of them. I think so too.
And you think that it's only a year later that we get Monsters Inc. And it's just the way that that movie looks as far as the what's his name
Sully.
well, Sully with the fur, but then
Oh, Randall.
the Randall, that's right, Randall,
Yeah.
with
Mm,
the way his skin looks. I mean, it's night and day between this. But I think the best segment as far as the animation is the whole sequence when the meteoroid hits and he ends up in Alador ends up in the water and I thought that whole sequence looked really good. And I mean, especially if you think like how hard it was to do water at that time, it's pretty
mm,
impressive. I think that
yeah.
sequence. But
Yeah, I agree. That's a really exciting sequence.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree.
The thing about the backgrounds that I think is a bit of a missed opportunity is that because of the story that they chose, the the beginning, the backgrounds look really beautiful and very impressive. But then as soon as they're over in the other land, it's just kind of brown.
That is true.
It's
Yeah.
just kind of desert. And so it's not that exciting.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then how much they set a huge chunk of it in that cave
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, we're gonna
Mm,
talk about that because
Yeah, which I know we'll get there, but I just say that but that really limits the color palette. And maybe
yeah,
it was intentional.
and
Easier to animate.
and I don't know if it's just my TV because I don't have like 4K or something because I could not decipher what was happening in those in those cave scenes. It
Yeah.
was so hard to see. It was so dark.
Dark. Yeah.
It's not just you. I remember thinking that when I was younger, like trying to figure out who was who
Yeah.
got hurt.
Yes.
It's like
It's not just
a
you.
yeah, it's like a silent it's like a visual an audio it's like an auditory, it's like a radio player or something at a certain point.
Uh-huh.
You're
Yeah.
just listening. But this beginning part, you have this egg getting tossed around, the pterodactyl flying, and then the egg lands on the lemurs. And we get this section with the lemurs mating ritual. And Jonathan, what are your thoughts on the mating
The
ritual?
lemurs are my least favorite part of the movie. Like, I like his main family. I like his adoptive mother, his
Uh-huh.
sister, and his adoptive grandfather. And the rest of them, even his friend, I don't like his friend very much. He's annoying.
Zini.
Yeah.
Yeah, the professor of love,
Yeah,
Zini.
he annoys me. Even as a kid, I didn't really like him. I wanted the movie to go on to the next part.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of the love monkey was a bad idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was not something I needed in my life. Is the love monkey?
I think they thought he was going to be like this hilarious side character that everybody was going to love, but he was kind of ugly. He looked like he had some sort of skin condition. He just looked wrong.
Plus, it feels like slightly predatory. You know what I mean? Even though it's obviously an animal, so they that's what they do. I don't know. It's just like a little bit like, oh, I think.
Yeah. It's yeah. Agreed.
If you compare it to Tarzan and his friends, because it's sort of a similar story
Yeah. It's
with
very. It's kind of Tarzan-esque, kind of Moses. It reminds me of kind of
mhm.
Ten Commandments a little
You've
bit.
got
Just
kind
as
of the
far as the just the initial,
yeah,
the setup. Yeah.
you got the disapproving father, and I mean, and this would have just been a year after Tarzan came out, so
Hmm.
they they were leaning on that, I think, pretty hard. And Aladdin, eh, he he saves Surrey, and he helps save everybody from the meteor shower, which is a beautiful. The meteor shower is, I mean, it's upsetting, of course, but it's also beautiful in the way it's animated.
Hmm.
I think it's the best part of the movie,
Yeah, I'd agree with
personally.
you.
Yeah. And I think the way that they set it up dramatically was effective too, because none of them had seen any of this before. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what to do,
Hmm.
and so I thought it was effective. Yeah.
Hmm. And so then they end up on the other side, and the story becomes a Exodus kind of story, looking for the promised land story. And the very first thing that you see in this wasteland is there are the raptor predators, and that's definitely the worst animation, I think, of the movie. Is these raptors look so bad, in my
The part
opinion.
of them makes me wonder if they were thinking about making this a 3D movie because the way they sort of like jump
Hmm.
at the
Yeah.
camera
Good
and like
point,
their head
Jonathan.
swings
Yeah.
in. I saw that today. I was like, was this in a 3D movie originally? I don't think it was,
I'm
but
not
it made
sure
me
it
think maybe they
was.
wanted that.
And I don't remember if it was
Hmm.
in 3D. I don't remember.
But yeah, they look really, really bad. I mean, they look like something you'd see in one of the Barbie movies or something like that.
Oh
which
dear.
I don't
which
know that they're that bad, but
I
they
don't know.
weren't as good as the Carnotaurus.
I mean, I mean, I'm a defender of the Barbie movies, but those are made on like $10 million budgets for like nothing. But direct to DVD, this is a $127 million
Hmm.
Disney film. I have a higher standards that they looked really, really bad. And then we just get in this story about this group that is going to the promised land, and it's led by this guy named Crone. And Crone is just such a such a stupid character. I hate his character
Oh, I
because
hate Crone. He's such a jerk.
he's such a jerk, but he's a jerk that doesn't make sense, which
Right.
is frustrating because I mean he says that the weak will the strong will prevail and the weak will be left behind. And that doesn't make any sense. Literally, they have predators all around them. They've got the raptors all around them. They have the carnosauruses that are hunting them down. The last thing that they need to be is thinning the crowd. They need as many dinosaurs as possible because if you have a T-Rex, which is a very powerful dinosaur, then he can do a lot of havoc. But if you have 30 less powerful dinosaurs, then all of a sudden he's not able to do as much damage, right? And so his law of the jungle is just stupid. The more his herd gets thinned out, the more likely they are to get killed by the predators who are after them repeatedly throughout the film. So he's just so stupid that he makes me irritated.
I think the part of the problem is you're thinking too logically, and there are people like him in this world.
Yeah.
Like there are people who have this mindset, like they are the best. I don't know, and in some sort of situation, like the people who think that they're going to be the ones that survive the end of the world problem. Like there's the memes of people talking about surviving a zombie apocalypse. All I got to do is run faster than you. There are people who have his mindset, and I think that's what they were going for.
But it's so dumb. Like that's just what's frustrating because he's like a
Yeah, yeah,
leader. He's not just some like vigilante who the kind of
Yeah.
person that you're talking. He's supposedly leading the people, and his leadership is so flawed that's why it's
but there are
frustrating.
people in real life that are drawn to that kind of a
Hmm.
character. Like
Yeah.
there are people who will get behind these selfish, like politicians, leaders, like even religious figures. If they have
Hmm.
this mindset, they're charismatic enough.
Hmm.
Not that he was that charismatic, but there are people who like that mindset and will follow him. And I think that this herd was just following him because he was the one who had some semblance of a plan, and he just made
Yeah.
himself the leader. I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know how their
Good
hierarchy
point.
works, but he never bothered me because I recognize traits in him that I've seen in real life people. So
That's true. It's a good point. I mean,
Yeah,
we
good
certainly had
point.
our share of those kind of leaders. No comment.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
But he's just so frustrating because uh, you like it's. I feel like it's supposed to be kind of the message of the movie, but the message is hurt when I guess when your antagonist is so stupid. You know.
Yeah, and it's like another level of conflict,
Hmm.
that like have to have the conflict within this, you know, group that's all trying to save themselves, right? And get to
Yeah.
the get to the uh happy hunting ground. What's the name? I'm sorry, I'm calling it the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The promised land.
Yeah.
But the yeah, I'm with you. I was so frustrated with Crone's character. I mean, I remember that first time I saw it, and every time since. He he drives me crazy. And I think what makes me crazy about him too is he's so weirdly selfish. Like he's all mad when, and I don't want to jump the gun a little bit, but I know we're kind of analyzing his character, but when like Aladar tries to help him and not only help him, like save his life, and he's all mad. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, why are you doing this?
Yeah, and you're right. There are people that are that narcissistic. Too many to probably. So it's a valid point, but sometimes it can be just make it frustrating to watch when it's like the moral sort of center of the film, and like because you're sort of the whole point is to be arguing against his idea of this of the strongest will it's like a Machiavellian the strong will prevail kind of idea, but it's such a flawed idea that I don't know, it just makes it kind of not that intellectually interesting. But you have Earl and Baleen, and they're at the back of the pack.
Don't even get
don't
me
don't forget Ema.
started. That's
Don't
one of the
forget Ema.
main. Oh dear.
Which one
I
did you
I
say?
I love I love the elderly trio.
Uh-huh.
They're probably my favorite characters. I don't know why. I just have
Philo.
always loved like little old ladies and things, and
Uh-huh.
I just absolutely love that they have little old lady dinosaurs in this movie. They're like my favorite. Plus, they're voiced by Joan Plowright and Della Reese, and I just love that. I remember watching this as a kid, a teenager, and thinking, "That's she's Tess from Touched by an Angel is a dinosaur." I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I just think of I think it's 101 Dalmatians
Yeah, Joan
with Joan
Plowright.
Flower.
Yeah, I love that they got them to be dinosaurs. The
Yeah.
I just they're my favorite characters. I mean, like we
Mhm.
talked about the beginning. The beginning was there's no dialogue at the beginning, and I will say that I think this movie should have been dialogue free. I would like
Yeah.
this movie would be a masterpiece almost if it were dialogue free. However, it would also lose Joan Plowright and Della Reese, and I don't know if I want to pay that price because I love them.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So the reason why it wasn't dialogue free, they were originally going to make it dialogue free, is because of our good friend Michael Eisner. He insisted that it have dialogue from the very start. That was his call. And Stanford, do you agree it would have been better? No dialogue?
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
It's the dialogue is one of the things that really drives me crazy about it. With I mean, and part of it too is why don't the Carnotaurs talk? I mean, everybody else
Yeah,
talks.
good point.
That also that's another thing with Earl because Baleen and Ema both talk. Earl does not. He's
Yeah,
like a dog. What is like are Ankylosaurus's dogs in this universe?
exactly.
Like
It's
why doesn't he get to be a speaking
it
character?
just seems
Huh.
a little inconsistent to me in that regard because it's like if these other ones are talking, how come these other again? Maybe just because they're just I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but that was frustrating to me. I think it would have been a lot more interesting had it not had the dialogue. And I really appreciate getting your perspective on it, Jonathan, because anytime Joan Plowright and Della Reese are in a dialogue, I'm just thinking, why are they in this movie? So I am so glad to hear your perspective on it. It helps me. So thank you.
I mean, technically, yes, it is a bizarre choice, but there's just something about it. I just really love that they have two old lady dinosaurs. I love it.
Well, and thankfully, I mean, spoiler alert, I don't you, but thankfully, the whole movie I keep thinking, okay, which one of them is gonna die? You know?
Well,
It's like
it kind of reminded me this is the perspective of the pandemic, but when things were just starting, there was like some people who were like, oh well, it's just in nursing homes, that I'm like, what?
I know, it's like,
You can't just say
what?
like, who cares about the old people? Like, what are you talking about?
I know.
I mean, that's crazy.
Seriously. That's just
Like, I
crazy.
mean, my grandmas both passed away in 2019, and they both lived into their 90s, and I'm grateful for every year that we got with them.
Oh,
The
yeah.
idea of just like, well, the old people,
It's
Mm.
just like, I know.
it was bonkers.
Oh. Bonkers. I mean, I don't know what if the Carnotaurs talked. I mean, I don't know what they say other than I want to kill you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
like I
still,
want to eat you. I want to eat
yeah.
you, or something.
But still, it would have been better than just them just roar. All the roars all the time. It's like,
Yeah, you
please.
could have had somebody like really weird voice that
Right.
like Crispin Glover or somebody like that.
And I'm
You
with
probably
you.
would get into a creepy territory if you started having the dinosaurs vocalizing how much they wanted to eat the other
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
I think so. Yeah, I think it would have been good. And so they finally get to the water hole, and it's all dried up. And that's when Crone says, "We saved the half that deserves to live."
I know. Chrome goes all Thanos. It's
I didn't even
It
think of
really does.
just like what?
uh, and yeah, it's like the decrease the surplus population thing going on. huge Scrooge. And so that's when, well, we've also met Nira, is the love interest, and
Who is
not,
Crone's sister?
that's right, I forgot
Yeah.
that. But Nira is not that you expect like really dynamic characters from Dinosaurs, but she's so bland, and there's no reason why they should. It's just like assumed. Okay, this is the love interest. There's nothing
Right.
interesting about it.
She's
But
the girl one,
she's
so
the girl
of
one. Yeah,
course.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
And so then they end up taking refuge in a cave after the Carnosaurus attacks. And the so and then Crone goes off with the herd on his own way, and Bruton is kind of his henchman. He stays behind. You have Bruton, Aladar, the lemurs, and the elderly dinosaurs that are behind. And they're in this cave overnight. And like we said, you cannot make out what is happening in this cave. And it's a
Yeah.
long time
It's a
that they're
really
in the cave.
long, time period in the film, and hard to distinguish.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and then the Carnosaurus attack. Bruton holds them off, and he sacrifices himself for the
Yeah, which is
group.
sad. Bruton takes it for the team, but again, I thought I was going to be Joan Plowright or Della Reese, not
Yeah.
that they would be fighting, but they were going to be the ones who died. So,
Right. So they get to the end of the cave. They think that there's a dead end, and then they see a light, and they are getting pretty discouraged, digging and digging. But then Baleen says, "How shame of you for giving up," and gives them a big pep talk. And so then they keep going.
And she's ultimately the one who breaks them through because she's so huge.
yeah.
But she rears back and
Yes.
slams through. Which, again, I loved as a kid because it's this old lady dinosaur saving the day.
It's saving
Yeah.
the day, yes.
Yeah. And they make it to the nesting grounds, and they find out that there's been this landslide in the normal entrance to the nesting grounds, and Alador tells them the Carnosaurus is coming. Well, Alador leaves the nesting grounds, and he goes and tries to talk to the group with Crone, and tells them that the Carnosaurus is coming, that there's not going to be able, that's just a steep cliff. They're not going to be able to make it, and that he knows another way. And of course, Crone won't listen.
Won't listen. Shocking.
Mm-hmm. And then you have Mira. She's fed up with Crone's illogical behavior and intervenes. I'm like, finally someone. Because he's making no sense. And the herd then goes after Aladar, and he tries to climb the rocks, and then the Carnosaurus comes and attacks Crone. And that's when Alador defends Crone. But then the Carnosaurus falls to his death, but then Crone dies also. And they lead the herd through the cave to the nesting grounds. And so, what do you think of all of that?
I have a bit of a nitpick on this. So
Okay,
sorry,
please.
again, no offense, but so there's that that battle going on with Crone, and I'm just rolling my eyes the whole time because it's like, because it seems to go on for a really long time, and
Yeah.
then there's that final thing where. And they do it, and they put it in slow motion. Are you kidding me? Like we're really wondering what's happening.
Yeah,
They're
we're
just
super
prolonging
invested.
our torture with this slow motion, falling scene off the cliffs. Like, ugh. Anyway.
It's true. It's like the final fight between Mufasa and Scar. So you gotta slow it down here. This is an
we don't
epic.
know what's happening.
I don't know, Jonathan. What do you think of all of this? All the shenanigans going on?
I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't really care about any of it because I didn't like Crone and I wanted him to die. So
Yeah.
I was glad when that finally happened, so they could move
Yeah.
on from him.
Yeah, that they could move on from him. Yeah, agreed.
You know you're a lame dinosaur if even Jonathan wants them gone. That's a bad news.
True.
So they go through the cave and they all end up in the nesting grounds. It's very exciting. And then you get your ending with the Nira and Alador having their own eggs. And you have Zini finding more lemurs. So he can be the love monkey all over again. So that's the movie.
There must have been like no male lemurs because all the females were like crowding all over him, and he does not look well.
No.
He looks diseased.
It's like the only option.
Like he's the only one. They're like, finally a man. Well, we'll look past all of his flaws.
And his horrible personality.
Yeah.
The lemurs are getting desperate.
Yeah.
That's the clear.
Yeah.
This.
I think that the promised land, what are we calling it again, Rach? You had the right name for it.
The nesting ground.
The nesting ground. Thank you. Sorry. Again, that it looked to me like that was filmed in Hawaii or someplace really beautiful. That has, I think, a lot of live action elements. And so I think that's very pretty. But then again, everything just kind of doesn't look right. And I don't know if again it's just however it worked. But then also I think by the time the other two, I mean, I was grateful that they arrived, but then also just kept looking at my watch saying, when is this movie gonna end? So yeah, I guess shame on me.
No, I mean I agree. So yeah, that's Dinosaur. We do have some comments from Twitter.
Oh, yay, good.
Yeah.
They're probably not nice.
Well, let me pull them up. So here we go. Let me find it. All right. We have Matthew Klein, our friend. He says, while not quite one of Disney's best works, Dinosaur deserves more credit than it's given. Characters like Alador, Crone, and Bruton are the most fleshed out. The score, the visuals are fantastic, and this film incorporates some good lessons. Alexander Robinson.
Talk about the score. Yeah,
I do like the score.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
love
true.
The score that James Newton Harris score is really beautiful.
Yeah.
I listened to as much as I liked the movie and watched the movie. I listened to the soundtrack way more. I bought the soundtrack when it came out.
Yeah,
I had that on repeat for probably years.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Alexander Robinson, he says, I don't dislike it, but I liked it better when it was called The Land Before Time. Richard Southworth, he says, not very good. It might have been better if the animals didn't talk, as the original teaser suggested. Tony P1821 says, I say underrated. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Not my favorite Disney film, but I do like it. Nicole Stay at Home says, major props for the cinematography. It was a huge undertaking in the late 90s, but the story was not as strong. Jacob Martin says, not a fan. The visuals were incredible for the time, and I love the score, but the narrative is a dud, and I don't care for any of the characters. Honestly, wish this was more of a visual movie with no dialogue than the dull version we got. Film Focus 55 says, Dinosaur. I do have fond memories of watching it on VHS. I rewatched it a few months ago, and while I don't love it, I do enjoy it a lot. It's still visually impressive for its blending of visual effects and live action footage. I'd say I'll do a couple more. Reese's review says, the animation is definitely amazing. However, the live action backgrounds often make me think of something like a museum documentary. The characters are okay, but to the film's credit, I think the third act is built towards and executed very well. Not my favorite, but still enjoyable. One last one from Kylo. He says, admirable effort. Should have been the silent movie it was initially planned to be. Not big on the characters or the dialogue. Opening 3 minutes is genuinely good, and the score as well. Liked it a lot better as a youngin'. So there we go. There's some of our listeners' thoughts.
Excellent.
On Dinosaur.
I'm glad they weren't too negative.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
I thought they were, pretty.
Yeah, we all agree. Add it to the list of Michael Eisner choices.
Yeah.
problematic because we all seem to agree that it would have been better sans dialogue.
Mhm. Even though I love Joan Plowright and Delores, I'm in the minority there. Even though I love them, I
We
do
can use
agree
them in
that
something else.
as a whole, it would have been better as like a silent dialogue-free movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very good. So for our next month in Talking Disney, our next episode, the random number generator has given us very exciting number 27. We are doing The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Yay.
And you don't even know this. I just finalized this with my sister on the phone before we started this. We're gonna have my sister Megan Wagner Lloyd on the podcast. She is a published children's book author, so I thought how perfect
Oh,
to have
outstanding.
her on to talk Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Definitely.
And so that's going to be really fun as our
Wonderful.
guest for that one. And so we're looking forward to that. And Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having me. It was a lot of
Thank you.
fun.
Thanks for putting up with my bad attitude, Jonathan. I appreciate it. And thanks for helping me see the movie in a new light.
Because I do call this movie, this is Dinosaur, the NyQuil film. Because it's so boring to me. I don't like it.
Yeah, I get why people don't like it. I like dinosaurs, so I probably am able to forgive more than other people.
Yeah. So I really appreciate it. Well, what's going on your channel, your podcast? What are you doing? Where can people find you?
Well, I have 2 podcasts, and for people who like animation, I'm working on a 2020 animation recap. My friend Katie is joining me, and we're going to be ranking all the animation from last year.
Mm.
And I have my other podcast is Every Version Ever, and right now we're going through different versions of Little Women. And Rachel is a guest on one of those episodes, so
yeah,
you might want to check that out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have that in the description. You also definitely check it out. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure to check that out. Make sure you're following us at Disney Talking on Twitter. We really, really appreciate it. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate those. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And also make sure to check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Do lots of fun stuff over there. And appreciate that support. We also have our Patreon group and our merch store, which has hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. And so you really would enjoy those. So check it out. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.